Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode has been brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum to be held on November 7th and 8th of 2022 in Verona, Italy. This year will be an exclusively in-person edition. The main theme of the event will be all-round wine communication. Tickets are on sale now, so for more information, please visit us at winetowine.net.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to the beautiful wine hills of the Castelli di Jesi in the region of Le Marche to meet my guest today, Carlo Paoloni, who is the owner of the Tombolini winery, which has been in the family hands for 100 years. Ciao, Carlo. Thanks for being my guest today. I'm guessing it's high summer in Le Marche, and you're finding a way to keep cool.
Ciao, Mark. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, it's we are in the middle of the summer here, but also refreshed by the Adriatic Sea's breezes. It's quite a pleasant day, and we are looking forward to a family gathering today.
Oh, good. That sounds great. Well, that's one of the beauties of where you are in the Castelli di Jesi, isn't it? That you've got this proximity of the Adriatic, and you also have the mountains, the hills leading up to the high mountains. For our listeners, just to give them a picture of the Castelli di Jesi and what a special place it is, can you describe Staffolo and where you are and your wine estate?
Yeah, sure. We are at around 300 meters on the sea level, facing east. This is one of the beauties of being on the Adriatic side of Italy. Also, that naturally the slopes are tending towards east and the more gentle sun exposure. We are 30 kilometers away from the Adriatic Sea shoreline and 10 kilometers from the peak of the Apennine here, which is Monte San Vicino at 1,500 meters of altitude. Staffolo is an historical, very historical city or town for viticulture. There are records from 1350. Of the town being full of wine. So we've been drinking some wine since at least that time. I say it was Verdicchio.
I'm sure it was, and I'm sure it was. People were drinking it for even longer than that time. The Castelli di Jesi, beautiful hilltops with castles, fortifications around this area near Jesi, the town of Jesi.
Yeah, sure. So this is Castelli di Jesi. It's a denomination where valleys are created by rivers flowing from the Apennines down to the Adriatic Sea, and so these valleys are running, if you want, perpendicular to the Adriatic coast, and that they are kind of natural channels for air and water. I say we are in the middle of a natural channel of air and water, and that allows the breezes from the sea to come up to the hills. And at the same time, in the winter and in the months around also the beginning and the end of the summer, we have quite high excursions, temperature, diurnal excursions, and being close to the Apennines. So these are areas where normally in the winter it snows. So in the winter we are covered by snow, and in the summer we have the refreshing impact of being close to the mountain.
Okay, and that movement of air from the land breezes and the sea breezes must keep the vines fresh and people fresh as well, because it's been a hot summer.
Oh, it's been a very hot summer. There's no way to deny it. I think all around Europe, But, Verdicchio, which is our focus, our 30 hectares vineyard is all planted at Verdicchio. With vines that go from, 25 to 50 years of age. The Verdicchio is quite late ripening grape, and seems to be quite strong against also weather changing. The other thing which is good in the location where we are is the mix in the soil types. So we have a good substrate of clay which retains water, but also we are not at the top of the hill. We are kind of mid of the hill, which is marked at the top from the town of Staffolo. And so being in the middle, you don't get that very strong sun exposure like at the top, and also water somehow remains trapped around the area, so we don't see a lot of effect from the this summer drought.
Oh, meno male. That's
meno male.
Yeah. So, Carlo, I know the winery has been in the family for 100 years, and you had a career change when you decided to come back to the family estate. Tell us a little bit about the story of the Tombolini winery and your own story as well, which I think sounds very interesting.
Well, thank you, Mark. Yeah, the story of the winery has very few parallels in the region. But history and tradition is important. But at the same time, it mustn't be a destiny. I think it's important that every generation renews the perspective and tries to bring, a new mentality. So this, I think, is more the mindset, the character of the family, which I care about. And it's a character of, caring for the territory and being proud of the territory and trying to do new things. So my great-grandfather, Sante, he escaped death during the First World War, and out of that very dreadful event, actually came back full of life, full of joy of living. Came back by train. He was a little man. He was going around with a sidecar, and I inherited this DNA. So I'm also, not so tall. And he came back and he started working in Ancona. In Ancona, with my great-grandma, they opened close to the port of Ancona, which is, we call it the door to the east, because it connects with the Balkans. He opened this shop of liquors, spirits, and spices. And at that time, 1921, the Verdicchio was mostly sold, it was already known, but it was mostly sold in barrels and not in bottles. The main export was probably to the city of Rome, which connects to the Marche region since a century because it was part of the Papal and the Vatican state. So I think the real passion for wine came to him because of business, because he was a businessman. And in 1944, he bought the first vineyards in Castelli di Jesi, one of the first to start bottling also spumante, because spumante Verdicchio. And, people tend to forget that one of the first spumante from Italy was Verdicchio, because the grape variety has this very high acidity. It was perfect for sparkling wines. And the stories he was telling us is that the soldiers in Second World War, the Allied soldiers, so the American army, was quite pleased by the spumante from Verdicchio.
Amazing. I thought the spumante was a more recent thing because Verdicchio does indeed make wonderful sparkling wines.
Yeah, sure. And this is, again, part of the history that is a bit forgotten. But we have, I have bottles from 1946, and obviously not drinkable but now, but it is a very good, historical evidence.
Sure.
Then, but let's say my great-grandfather didn't have the same, openness in terms of mindset and view of the world as my grandfather Giovanni. Giovanni really expanded the business and the winery in the 50s and 60s, what is called the Italian economic boom. So he started exporting the Verdicchio in this traditional amphora-shaped bottle all over the world, but particularly the state of New York was a big is a big market for us, but also the UK, Japan. Sometimes this is also something that is forgotten. But before Pinot Grigio became Pinot Grigio, Italian white wine was also Verdicchio.
Absolutely. And in that very distinctive bottle, which we'll talk about a little bit further on, but that amphora bottle, just as Chianti was in its straw-covered fiasco, and the beautiful amphora that brought Le Marche wines and Verdicchio di Castelli di Jesi all over the world many, many years ago.
Yes, and then my mother is the daughter of Giovanni. In around the year 2000, she actually went for another step. She transformed the winery into made it bigger. So we extended the vineyard to 30 hectares. And then she also introduced this concept of organic farming. We are now certified on most of the vineyard. There is only a bit that needs conversion. In 2023, we will be fully certified. But, organic in this moment for us, it's a must. And I would consider it, something that everyone needs to do. And so there's no need to talk about it. If you don't do it, it means you don't understand what is happening in the world of viticulture. And then myself, I changed my life several times because, a winery that's 100 years in the family, it must be that in some periods is better and some periods are worse. So you cannot always bet on your family to give you a direction. And in my case, I decided to pursue my own career in London, working for very, very large investment banks, American institutions. But in 2013, my mom gave me a call and she said, Carlo, we are at a moment in our history where either you step in or everything is lost. And it wasn't money. It was really a family succession. And at that point, I thought about it very, very briefly. The decision was clear for me that it was the right time. I was 35 years old. Today I'm 44, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and also full of love for my mom. It's as easy as that. You have to decide in your life if you want to continue to live separate from your family, and then, whatever happens to them doesn't bother you, or I just decided a bit on the basis of the family bond. And also I knew that in my life I would have never been able to recreate and to buy the history of my family. And that's why I've done it.
Well, that's a beautiful story. And I like the way you've traced that through the generations. But it still would have been a change of life completely. You're living in London, you're working for an investment bank, and now you move back to the quiet and beauty of the countryside to become a farmer, a winemaker, selling wine around the world. So a completely different change of life.
I think so, but at the same time, this might surprise you, but there is an element of the wine business, which is, my family comes from an agricultural background. Both my grandfathers were agronomists. One was an entrepreneur, one was an agronomist all his life. I ended up in the banks, etc. Right, but sometimes I make a joke that my grandfather was evaluating the weight of a cow or of a bull, and I was evaluating maybe a company, worth. But it's the same job. But in the end, in the wine, you have this personal relationship. There is this personal relationship with the producer, which is you become the same thing as the winery and the vineyard. And this is so rewarding that even if you are alone, battling against nature and battling against a lot of other things, because it's complex, but still you have this reward of the personal contact with your aficionado, with your fans, with the people who love your wine. And this is unbelievable.
Are you enjoying this podcast? Don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, Mama Jumbo Shrimp, for fascinating videos covering Stevie Kim and her travels across Italy and beyond, meeting winemakers, eating local food, and taking in the scenery. Now back to the show.
Yes, absolutely. I can well understand that important link between the people who you're making wines to enjoy for and that long tradition in your family. Now, we've mentioned a very special grape, Castelli di Jesi, being the home of this wonderful grape variety found here and in Metallica, also in Le Marche, but virtually nowhere else on earth. Verdicchio. Let's talk about Verdicchio and about the way you are making your Verdicchio wines.
Yeah, look, Verdicchio is in my opinion, at this point in time, with what we understood finally of the grape, is certainly, if not the most important, one of the most important white grape variety of Italy. And the particular thing, and Verdicchio, as I said, is a tradition which is now centuries old in this region. And that means that the relationship between the soils and the microclimate of this region, which, as I said at the beginning, is very different from the rest of Italy. We are quite up north. People tend to forget that we are at the same height of Siena or Florence, but we are on the east. And the east gives you a completely different set of winds. We get the Balkans winds. We get much cooler weather than the west side of Italy. And then we have a special soil here as well, which is being studied. I've done my own study, but the denomination is going to come up with a full study. It's a pretty particular soil because it's a 5 to 15 million years old mix of clay and sandstone. It was a seabed. It was a seabed. It was submerged under the Adriatic Sea. Verdicchio found its own special home here for centuries. If it's used in other regions and in other areas, we'll have a different expression. Why is Verdicchio so special? It's so special because it is an extremely versatile white grape variety, but also it is age-worthy. So you can create very longeve and very complex white wines with Verdicchio. It is strange to say this now because historically the success of Verdicchio has come from this very fresh, as I said, acidity, fresh style of winemaking. It's so versatile that it's quite easy to make an excellent, easy drinking wine with Verdicchio. However, it's only since maybe 20 years, and even less, that producers have recognized the possibility to create very age-worthy wines with Verdicchio and complex wines.
That's really important to know because I think, as you say, people remember an easier style of Verdicchio, but this more structured, more serious, almost like a red wine that happens to be white to get that fullness of character. How do you achieve that in extracting this personality from your grapes? First of all, beginning in the vineyard, but also your winemaking techniques.
We focused very strongly on the vineyard. I say this is the reason why I came back, because everyone was telling me that vineyard was producing a special grape, a special raw material. And what we do essentially is we farm organically, but particularly we keep the yields low. We are working with yields between 7 and 9 tons per hectare. We work with a single guyot pruning technique. And we make sure that the vines, do not get too overloaded with fruit. The other thing we do which is, if you want, this practice I just described are getting more and more common in the region. And now we need to deal also with sun. So we are increasingly keeping the canopies more rich to cover and to prevent any burning of the skins of the grapes. And it's something we are managing to achieve quite well. Why is this so important? Because obviously we want to create very elegant and crisp wines, and we cannot afford having any burning from the sun on the grapes. This is, I think, the major things we do on the farming, which in the end is also quite simple because the weather and the conditions of the soil, they help us. This is one of the features of Castelli di Jesi. The soil is poor. Is a soil which is poor on nutrients, and this is why Verdicchio is exalted here, because Verdicchio is quite a vigorous vine. It can have a very strong big productions, but in Castelli di Jesi, It struggles. It goes down. The roots go deep, and we can work with lower yields, and that's where we get more extract from the Verdicchio grapes.
Carlo, I'm fascinated that at a time when other producers are eschewing the traditional and famous amphora bottle that we've already talked about, the bottle that really put Verdicchio on the international wine map, you have returned to your family roots and very proudly sell your flagship wine, the Castelfiora, in a very sleek and beautiful and elegant modern amphora. Tell us your thinking behind the amphora and what it represents to you.
Yeah. So the amphora is Verdicchio, and the amphora is Le Marche. The amphora is our territory. And I realized after a few years here that there was no better way of immediately showing who we were than this bottle. And I thought, why no one else? I mean, obviously there are amphora-shaped bottles in the supermarkets. You see them on the shelves, also in the UK. But why nobody has started already making a Classico Superiore and then a Riserva, so the premium, let's say the best of the denomination, into this bottle? And why have we forgotten that green color? And then I made my study, and I realized, that everyone was a bit paralyzed by the history. But, because in my life I had to change so many times, I thought, you know what? We shouldn't be paralyzed by what we were or by our mistakes. There's always another chance in life. And I contacted the best designer in Italy, and I fought with her for 9 months to develop this bottle, because she was also, initially skeptical on the whole idea. Simonetta Doni, and in Florence, and we became friends in the end. And now she showcases the bottle on her shelves in her study when clients, much bigger names, go and visit her. So the idea is, I want this bottle to be on the best tables, so I will put in this bottle only the best of my production, which is the opposite of what the others have done. But I don't want to compare to the others. I do it also for the denomination, and I'm very happy that now a lot of colleagues are, rather than skeptically looking at someone who was, in London and maybe this is just a caprice. No, actually they understood what I'm trying to do, and they say, let's say they are happy that I've done it, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone else followed.
That's a beautiful story, and actually it's a beautiful bottle, and I can see the elegance and the importance that comes in this beautiful shape, which, as you say, is returning to tradition, but also going against an element of that tradition when it was considered a more easy drinking wine. Well, I know you have a family get-together today, and I'm imagining you're going to be having a very nice lunch over your family get-together. Let's turn to the foods of Le Marche, of your area, Le Castelli di Jesi, and just talk about foods that go well with this wonderful wine, Verdicchio, because it's not just seafood, it's the more well-structured examples, as we're talking about, can accompany many of your wonderful and delicious local dishes.
Verdicchio is, as you said, is a bit of a red dressed in white. No? So it's quite surprising to taste it not only with the traditional excellent seafood of Le Marche, but inland, to try it with our fantastic coniglio in porchetta. So it's a rabbit cooked with some bacon and herbs. Or with some we have a lasagna, special lasagna here, which is called the Vincis Grassi, which we do also with bechamel and mushroom, and so a white lasagna that would be quite nice with a Verdicchio, and all the different. Also the soft and medium cheeses that we produce here in Le Marche. So it is a wine that surprises from that standpoint, because it has this volume, this presence in your mouth for a long time. It's persistent, and the acidity helps you to smoothen out and refresh any heaviness that could come from food that is here mainly based on ingredients which are local, and these ingredients are often surprisingly rich in flavor for someone who's not used to that.
Yes, I think Le Marche has one of the great cuisines of Italy and is not so well known. I love that coniglio in porchetta, the rabbit boned and stuffed as a porchetta would be, with the wild fennel, the garlic, the herbs, cooked in a hot oven, a wood oven ideally. Wonderful foods in the brodetto from Ancona, or the beautiful wild mussels from Porto Novo. Wonderful foods to go with wonderful wines.
Yeah, I've seen your experience quite a lot, Mark. I'm surprised.
Oh, it's one of my favorite areas to visit. I do think that more people should visit Le Marche. It's not so well known as you say, the West Coast, the Tuscany and Umbria as an area for visitors, but it's an area that people need to visit and discover. And while they're there, they need to discover Verdicchio.
Yes, sure. This is our pride, and we want to tell the world and everyone to come here and discover the amazing thing we have here. Maybe we've been a bit distracted for too long. We've been busy with other things, and we maybe been a bit complacent in Le Marche. Le Marche is a strange combination between the, let's say, shyness of being a farming region, or historically farming region, and then the complacency of being an area of manufacturing for a very long time. So people are at the same time reserved and also well off, so they don't maybe make a big effort, or they just didn't need to do it. But we should, and we want, and we love to be known and to meet people, to show what we can do with our wines.
Certainly. Well, I'm sure that many of our listeners who are located all over the world will be fascinated to hear your story and eager to taste your wines, as well as to visit the beautiful Castelli di Jesi. Carlo, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been a real pleasure meeting, learning your story, and learning about your wines. And I do hope I can make it out to visit you sometime soon. Grazie.
Grazie, Mark. I'm looking forward to meet you. A presto. Bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum, to be held on November 7th and 8th, 2022, in Verona, Italy. Remember, tickets are on sale now, so for more information, please visit us at winetowine.net. Hi guys, I'm Joy Livingston, and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love, and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to italianwinepodcast.com.